Now, welcome to another of my Sunday commentary videos, which means once again I'll be departing a bit from the galaxy far, far away and talking more than usual about our own real world, though as always it will still involve Star Wars to some degree, and I'm going to start out by talking about it and going back to the time of the prequels. You know, back to when arguments over Star Wars were actually almost always over Star Wars itself, when it was almost always strictly the quality of the content that we as fans focused on and fought over, not anything and everything else around it. It was an elegant form of debate for a more civilized age. Or at least it was more civilized than today's fandom wars are, because sure, in all fairness, there were plenty of people that took it too far even back then. There always are people who go too far with just about anything. And so there were certainly those that did and said things that crossed the lines or were just ridiculous and wrong or completely unnecessary. And yes, there were of course people hurt by this back then. Two examples I usually see given are Ahmad Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, and Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin in Episode 1. And though I don't condone any fan who personally went after them in any capacity, beyond just your normal criticisms which you do fairly open yourself up to by being in a movie, especially one like Star Wars, just like as I've said before, I'm absolutely fine with people criticizing me if they so choose, because I am willingly putting myself and my thoughts and opinions out there in the public space. I'm inviting criticism upon myself by doing that. Anyway, it should be noted that Ahmad Best has always said it was mainly the media that he had issues with, or should I say had issues with him, while Jake Lloyd said it was kids at school that treated him horribly, which no, doesn't make it right or better or anything, don't get me wrong, nor does it excuse any fan who did truly go too far or go after them in some way that crossed the line, and yes, I'm sure some did. But anyway, I always see people make very general statements like, prequel haters are responsible for this person going through this or that, or they're the reason George Lucas eventually sold to Disney, even though they're not. He has said himself he's sold to spend more time with his family. And very similar and actually usually much worse things get said about the quote-unquote sequel haters today, that all of them are this or that, they're horrible things, and are all responsible for maybe someone quitting social media because they were harassed on there. Even though most of them, the vast majority of people who don't like the sequels, have never even considered taking to social media and going after the actual person behind a character, much less done it, most have the common sense to be able to separate an actor from the role they have played, and would be nothing but kind and respectful should they meet one of them in person. I mean, I may not like Rey the character, but that doesn't mean I don't like Daisy Ridley the person, and that I wouldn't be anything but gracious should I meet her. In fact, I'd probably just leave her alone should I pass her on the street. I think that's the nicest thing you can do for a celebrity, is let them have their peace while in the public space. And on the flip side, there are certainly characters I really, really like in Star Wars or whatever it might be, where I don't necessarily like or agree with the actor who plays them, but again, I can separate character from actor. Just like I can separate liking or disliking a movie from those who feel the opposite as I do about it. For example, I enjoy the prequels, but have zero issue with those who don't like them. Bash them all day if you'd like. I don't really care. It doesn't ruin my enjoyment of them one iota. Never has, never will. It just feels childish and petty to not like someone because they have a different taste in films than I do. I even sort of enjoy friendly debates over films like Star Wars, obviously. Same then goes for the sequels, but in reverse. In that case, I don't really enjoy them all that much, but have no ill will towards those who do. And if my criticizing of them takes away from your enjoyment, well, first of all, it's not my intent, never has been. But second, why do you care what I think about them so much? Why does that really bother you that I criticize them? And those are serious questions because I honestly don't get it, and I get accused all the time of ruining people's enjoyment of those movies, as if I'm somehow coming into your home and forcing you to watch my videos? And usually when I point this out to someone that you can ignore me or not watch my videos if you don't want to, I get some kind of response that I contribute to the general sense or overall aura of hate around the sequels, that my videos just add to the problem, which takes us right back to the sort of guilt by association thing I was basically talking about before, where you try to lump a large group of people together based on some sort of commonality and then judge them all based on the actions of the few of the worst in the group, which to me is just a cheap and lazy way to try and condemn and silence everyone that doesn't agree with you, and it sure as heck doesn't happen in just the Star Wars fandom. Anyway, here on the surface, there's actually very little difference between the argument back then against the prequels versus the argument now against the sequels. Both involve segments of the fan base who think they're not Star Wars and aren't happy with those responsible for making them. But the two big differences between then and now are what side the media is on this time, and that social media didn't exist back during the prequels. And I know I've talked about this before, but I think it's worth addressing again or pointing out that the media, by and large, did not like the prequel trilogy. They were actually on the side of the haters back then, and of course weren't going to call anyone out for not liking those movies. Not that it'd make much of a story if they did. Your average reader of a newspaper or magazine 20 years ago didn't care if some Star Wars fans didn't like the new films and were making a stink about it. That's not going to sell. This time though, or with the sequels, the media liked them, especially The Last Jedi, which was of course a movie a lot of fans took issue with and the one that pretty much caused the split in the fan base. But that in itself still doesn't make for much of a story outside of the Star Wars fandom. Again, nobody cares, and I say this very affectionately, if angry Star Wars nerds bicker with each other over the movies. That doesn't get you clicks or views on your article. That doesn't get likes, shares, and retweets from the average person on the internet, again, outside of the fandom itself. But if you start talking about how those who didn't like the sequels are actually part of a bigger problem, that it's exposing a racist and sexist and hateful segment of the Star Wars fanbase, not to mention a bigger problem in entertainment and the world in general, and well, you got yourself something that people will click on and start talking about outside the fandom. You have something that will sell, and that's all that matters to them. The clicks, the views, the likes, and of course the revenue that comes with it. Which brings me to two great sayings that are very much related and I think sum up the state of things perfectly, not just for Star Wars, but in the world itself. Two sayings I'm sure Palpatine would approve of because he seems to exploit them both in taking over the Republic. And they are, never let a crisis go to waste, and there's no money in the cure, only the treatment. Because think about it, if someone is prospering from a crisis or can exploit it to their advantage somehow, then why would they ever try to fix it or want to see it fixed? If you're making money off of division or keeping power because of it, you have no interest in there ever being unity, even if that's what you're claiming to be for. Furthermore, you not only sit back and eagerly wait for the next thing to pounce on, the next soundbite or quote from the other side essentially, but you seek it out or create it if you have to. But usually you don't have to wait long, because it's only a matter of time before the other side says something crazy or overblown for you to react to, thus allowing you to say something, all too often, equally overblown and crazy, in return, which then allows them to respond to your response, and it goes on this way. And I've joked before that both sides are either in cahoots with each other or don't actually hate each other. They love each other because they allow each other to profit so much. And yes, I am joking here, or at least I hope I am. I don't think there's any sort of under-the-table agreement or anything to keep the division going. I think it's more a byproduct of there being so many voices in the game these days, thanks in large part to social media and platforms like YouTube that give any random person, including me, a voice and an audience to talk to. And so in order to stand out from the crowd and to get the clicks and views, you all too often have to take it to the extremes. You have to be the one saying the things that get people worked up the most and get them angry, and then keep them coming back for more. Which, of course, as I pointed out, allows the other side to respond and keeps the wheel ever churning. And the end result is everyone watching sort of pays the price and just keeps getting angrier and angrier at the other side. We become ever more divided, and even over, and again I say this very affectionately, something as frivolous as Star Wars. They create the division they profit from, and they keep you hooked with it. And look, I'm certainly not saying there isn't anyone out there who actually wants to see change or cares, or that there aren't good causes in the world. Not everyone has ill intent, and I also think there are some that truly do care and want to do good, probably a lot, if not most even start out that way, but I think some get so wrapped up in it all that they don't see what they're becoming, and I'm sure there are some Episode 3 Anakin falling to the dark side memes we could insert right here. And no, the irony of all this isn't lost on me, because here I am talking about division in a video, and making money from it, and I'm sure YouTube has already thrown in a mid-roll ad or two for you to enjoy. So in my own way, I too profit from the crisis. My hands aren't squeaky clean either. I've also made plenty of videos trying to tear apart the sequels, and in hindsight, more than was probably necessary to get my point across. And yeah, I'll talk about the sequels again at some point, I'm sure, along with other things about Star Wars to come that I won't like or agree with, though at the same time, I'll continue to make videos that praise the things I do like and enjoy, or that will be great. I'll continue to try and discuss it as openly and honestly as I can, and you can continue to agree or disagree with what I have to say. We can keep talking some Star Wars. I also want to get back to doing more what-if type videos and stories, and I'll keep this style of video to Sundays mostly and label it appropriately for those who are only interested in Star Wars content. And so anyway, my point, as usual, is to hopefully get people to think, to see what is going on and how we are all, no matter what side you're on, being manipulated. It's all a trap. We're at war with each other, And the only ones who can win or are winning are the ones perpetuating it at our expense, unless we stop fighting and say enough is enough already, unless we truly start to look at the things that unite us and not what divides us. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of anything or everything I had to say. Either way, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars and the world in general. And until next time, thanks for watching.